Welcome to the Wolf Connection podcast. I'm your host, John Kalfa. Let's talk about some wolves. Welcome back to the podcast. On this episode via Zoom, coming to us from LA, is Chris Henrikson. He is the founder and executive director of Street Poets Incorporated here in Los Angeles. He's also a board member here at Wolf Connection. Chris, first off, happy to see you. It's been a while. How's everything going over by you?
Yeah, good to see you, man.
Things are going well, all things considered. I kind of feel like we're all in this big river of change, and the goal, or at least the goal I've been focusing on, is to stay in the flow as much as possible and help not get in the way of the change that seems to be happening all around us and through us. And so, all things considered, I haven't drowned yet in the river, and it seems to be moving us in a direction into the unknown, but in a direction that's stimulating creativity and some good things. So we'll see.
That's a great analogy. I love that. I love the flow. Yeah, because we're definitely going down some sort of a course that we're not really sure about where it's going to end. But I love the way you put that. So I like the positive spin as always. So I want to get some background for you because you're an East Coast person originally. I know you grew up in Massachusetts, I believe. You went to school at Duke University. So what brought you out here to LA first and foremost? What was the kick to come out west for you?
Writing, really. I've been the one sort of thread of my identity that has always kind of been there, at least since I started learning language, was writing, and so I came out to LA to go to film school in a screenwriting program at the American Film Institute, like a lot of people who come, sort of chasing their Hollywood dreams. And that was my doorway into the Los Angeles community, and it happened in the early 90s, right before the unrest that occurred in the wake of the Rodney King beating, and so I kind of landed in LA at a pretty fiery time, actually, and yeah, that in a lot of ways shifted my relationship to the city pretty quickly. I had to kind of hustle to figure out what it meant to be an Angelino. With my East Coast roots, this city took a while for me to figure out, and especially when it was in crisis. And I came out of those early '90s years with a sense that I wanted to connect to community in a deeper way. I needed to connect to community in a deeper way. And I started volunteering through the Writers Guild, teaching a poetry writing workshop in one of the LA County probation camps on a weekly basis. And that kind of shifted everything. It actually led ultimately to me putting down the screenwriting career that I was engaged in at that time and devoting myself to the foundation and creation of this Street Poets organization that is kind of at the hub of a larger creative community now. So it gave me, that work has given me a sense of home out here. I've been out here for almost 30 years now, and it feels like home. My children were born here. I've grown up here. And then there are places with which I'm in relationship, like Wolf Connection, that also help ground me in this place. So even in these crazy times, and even with there being fires on the hills right now burning, it's not too far from you guys and not too far from us here in the city. So
yeah, there's been a lot, and on that note, I do want to give a major thank you and shout out to the firefighters that are doing their work, and these individuals are so brave to really keep as much of everything intact as they can and keeping everybody safe. So thank you goes out to them. Hopefully that gets said enough, that these people are extremely brave and heroic. And with you, so you come out here during a fiery time to go right back to it. And you formed this organization, Street Poets Incorporated, and we've had a lot of connection between Wolf Connection and Street Poets and sort of a synergy that goes with it. what was the basis of the foundation for it for you? And how did you find that the writing aspect of it was helping the youth in LA that you were starting to really become sort of interconnected with as a family, as you were saying?
Yeah, well, I can just go back to my own story, which is that writing for me helped me find my voice, my authentic voice as a human being. And so, it was the one thing I knew that I had to offer to young people who might still be figuring out who they are and what they're here to do. And when I first started going up to that juvenile detention camp it was in the hills in Malibu, actually, in Santa Monica Mountains. I recognized myself and a lot of the young people that were there. I think we'd all, on some level or another, betrayed ourselves, our authentic selves. I had sold my soul to the Hollywood studio system, to make a long story short, and they had compromised some essence of their own identity, I think, by falling into the gang life and into situations that had or forced them to make decisions that were maybe not completely in alignment with their hearts and their deeper or higher selves. And so we use writing as a way of kind of finding our way back to who we are, to remember who we are in a sense, what we came into this world to do and to be. And I think that's one of the reasons that Street Poets' work has always resonated with the work at Wolf Connection, because there's something, we talk a lot in metaphor at Street Poets, and there's something about the howling wolves, the way the wolves howl to align themselves with each other and with their pack, that is deeply, deeply resonant with the work that we do at Street Poets, helping young people find their voices, tell their stories, and, gather around a microphone to amplify that story. We also have a recording studio, so we sometimes record those stories and amplify them in other ways beyond the live moment. But that work is very much in alignment with the work that happens on a metaphoric level out at Wolf Connection. And so it was a natural fit for us and a natural collaborative relationship for us to begin to work there. I also think that our work when we do that kind of deeper soul work, I would say it connects us to our own true nature as human beings, and that naturally becomes kind of a gateway to the natural world. And so for a lot of the young people we work with, they've grown up in cities. They even though Wolf Connection is only an hour from downtown Los Angeles, they've never been any place like Wolf Connection or out into nature like that at all. And so, the wolves have been incredible gatekeepers to the natural world for many, many, many of our young people over the years, and for our staff, and for our grown folks like me too. So. And a lot of it has to do with voice and finding our voice and the way in which that process can support the creation and nurturing of community. So,
when you see that process play out, what is that like for you? Because when you bring, like you said, we're bringing the youth and the nature and the wolf together in a way that we can really express, as you say, our natural self and possibly go back. We always talk about going back to a primal self and really a more simplistic way that we can express ourselves through written word, through reading, through take all of the noise away and really just sort of get to the heart of what we're doing. So what do you see when you take these in the youth, some of the adults, and what are some of the ideas and what are some of the boundaries that you see being broken when someone's able to express themselves through written word or even spoken word?
It's like watching a light get turned on, or a fire get lit in someone. It's like the experience of seeing someone tell their story for the first time, or own their voice for the first time, or step up to a microphone for the first time in front of a community of their peers and others bearing witness to that is it's a kind of miraculous thing. I don't spend as much time out at Wolf Connection as you guys, but I imagine it's almost like that first howl, of a wolf pup or something. And some of us have been told, our society tells our young people often, sadly, that their voice is not important, or that that it's actually dangerous for them to speak up and speak truthfully. And obviously there are structures in our society that are invested in keeping certain voices in our society silent. And so there is something also kind of subversive, I think, and revolutionary in the act of creating space, really, for people and young people particularly, to claim their voice, to own their voice, to bear witness to the world around them. And poetry is the way that we use to do that. Those are the tools that we offer to our young people. That's the practice. I should say it's the practice, the healing practice, the transformational practice that we offer to our young people. So,
when you see those things, to me, it's incredible the wisdom that is already in an individual. That we're talking, most of the youth that come to the ranch in their mid-teens, some late teens, it really depends. But the amount of wisdom that is already ingrained in certain individuals, no matter how their voice has been suppressed or silenced or not really even given the room to, as you say, express their story and share with the world the knowledge that they may have or the things that they have seen through the course of that their short time already, is really powerful when that comes out. When we do work at the wheel, when we have street poets come to the ranch and do the programs and lead those writing exercises, it's really fascinating to see just the expression that comes out of just a simple writing exercise. Is that when you found it, when Street Poets came, how is that what you envisioned?
I don't know what I envisioned. Yeah, I started as a volunteer for 3 years. I would just go up once a week to this juvenile detention camp. So at that point, I wasn't really envisioning anything like what this has become. But I agree. I think it's there's something in. Well, it's interesting. Our educational system in this country has traditionally been designed to kind of with this idea that we're pouring a certain knowledge or certain, facts and history into our young people, as opposed to seeing our young people as coming into the world with a kind of wisdom buried in their bones already, and with a kind of unique medicine that is unique to them and is meant not only for their own healing and their own transformation and power, but for the healing and transformation of those around them. And I think one of the reasons that Street Poets and Wolf Connection get along so well is that there's a kind of we share that understanding that our young people. It's really about creating the kind of space where the wisdom and the authenticity and the voices of our young people can feel safe and supported and like they can be heard. So it's about really like a spirit of invitation that we make. And I think Wolf Connection also is a place that makes that invitation really beautifully to young people. And it's why we love teaching poetry when we're working with you guys and working with the wolves, because those wolves and the program that you guys offer to young people there supports the same kind of work that we do in the city. And so there's a kind of synergy that occurs there that I think kind of cuts through all the BS, and all the stuff that we accumulate and that gets piled upon us, whether they're projections from other people or judgments about who we are and how, all that stuff that kind of loads us down and that we labor under the burdens of. And especially the kind of young people that we're working with are coming out of environments where they've been hit with a lot of that from a lot of angles. there's something amazing about watching them land on the land at Wolf Connection and encounter those animals who are these incredible facilitators of a kind of like it's like they shed these layers, and it's when that happens. What we have to offer on the creative level with the writing exercises and things is just like they're just so ready to receive it, and they're unencumbered and they're quick to accept the invitation that we make. So
that's a great word that you use, and with the facilitation. And we've seen it so many times that the wolves are really just they're almost a vessel with which we invite. It's a simple invitation also. And I think some of that gets lost in the world that we're in today, is that I think individuals just want to have the invitation or the chance to express themselves in an environment where they are able to get their thoughts out and really, like you said, be unencumbered with all of the noise and the distraction. And it's a really good way for that to happen. I've seen some of the work that you guys have done as Street Poets where it's that open opportunity and it's almost allowing that space. What do you, when you see the invitation being given, what's really the response from that? Is that sometimes individuals' first time getting just an opportunity to share what they know, what their story is? How simple is that? Just to give an invitation for someone to share themselves.
I think the invitation itself is a very simple thing. I think where the work is from a facilitator perspective is about the quality of presence that you bring to that invitation. And that's a lot of what we do on our staff and in our circles, community circles and workshop circles, is really cultivate this deeper level of presence in those who are facilitating, teaching, kind of holding space for the poetry and the stories to come in. And you know that's work that is personal work. It's deep healing work. It's a lifetime of work in some cases. You know, it takes it and it's constant. You know, we're constantly shedding these layers and kind of learning to be more and more present and being able to show up in more and more of a full way when we're working with young people and with ourselves. And I think the wolves are incredible teachers of that. I mean, as you guys know, I can say, you know, I have my own meditation practice. I do vision fasts every couple of years where I'll go out in nature for 4 days and, you know, by myself and, with a group, but alone, for 4 days where you're fasting and so I have practices that have helped me to kind of ground and become more awake and aware myself. But those wolves, I'll tell you, 10 minutes in one of those compounds in one of the enclosures with the wolves. I mean, it takes about 2 or 3 minutes to do what it would take like maybe a Buddhist monk an hour to get to this level of kind of higher heightened awareness and presence. And there is something about being in the presence of those animals when they're kind of circling you and sniffing and just kind of checking you out, that just quiets everything in you so quickly. And I've seen that impact on young people there and how rapidly it's kind of like a turbocharged meditation that just shifts their consciousness and their level of presence into a place where they can speak, write, and express themselves in a deeper, more authentic, in ways that even surprise them sometimes. And that's from a facilitation perspective. That's like those are the most exciting moments. And when people write and say things they didn't even expect they were going to touch on. So
yeah, it's like there's very few experiences in life left where you can connect to that primal, simplistic part of yourself. And wolves are like this. I mean, being in nature, meditation, those are those are, pretty useful ones for me personally, and I'm sure for a lot of people. But being with wolves is like, it's another one on that list where there's just this expedited quantum leap to your primal, focused, present self. It's pretty wild.
It is. I mean, I'm a big dog lover, and my dog is over here sleeping on the couch, and my dog even he'll howl with me if I come home and start howling. He'll get up and howl with me. So he's trying his best to be a wolf, but he is no wolf. It's just a completely. And I didn't realize until I started spending time with Teo and the wolves at really, well, actually at the site before the ranch that you guys are on right now, I didn't realize just how different wolves were from dogs, and how it's almost like they just read your energy. It's like they're like dogs in this sort of hyper heightened awareness where they can just sense your energy, and as you're being checked out by them, it automatically shifts your focus inward, because you're like, okay, well, what are they looking at? What are they sensing? I better quiet myself, So, and it's just great, man. I feel like all these monasteries out there where people are meditating for hours and hours and hours should have wolves hanging around that can help accelerate the meditative state that people get into, because it's really an incredible gift.
Yeah, it's an acceleration, but it's also a slowdown at the same time, right? I mean, we were just hiking before with a couple of wolves, and obviously we're on a schedule and we're trying to do things, but there are times during a hike where you just sort of drop into a completely different plane of existence, where I feel like I'm one with whoever I'm hiking with, or if I'm sitting with one of them. And, for me, like Coda and Shade, when we were just out before, it's that drop down, and it's that invitation on another level to just literally react to what is in front of you at that moment, and really just dissipate all of the other, like you were saying, the stuff that doesn't really matter at this point.
Yeah, that's the word I was going to use, is dropping into the moment. They just give you some kind of permission to do that instantly. Like there's no resistance, and you don't have to ask for anyone's permission, because they're automatically giving it to you, and that's when you thrive in your relationship with them, is when you're both doing that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. You're right. It's not an acceleration. It is a kind of dropping in and a slowing.
No, but I agree with you. I think it's both. I think you're right though, because there is, like I said, it's a push pull, because I really think with, like you said, as a vessel and as a facilitator, to have that being this wolf, this species that's able to really just primally connect to us, it is so much more. It's really just a heightened experience.
I think it's hard to distinguish between heightened, like moving fast, and moving slow, because potentially the place that they vibrate with that we're describing as dropping into the moment is really a higher vibrating place than not being in the moment. So you're slowing down and speeding up in some way, lining up with that natural state of being, which then just feels right and relaxed.
Yeah. Chris, with you also work with another program too. You have Street Poets. You also work with ARC, or ARC as we call it. Can you, and it's please go into what ARC is, and then how they also have the connection here with us at Wolf Connection. So just explain to those that are listening what ARC is, and what the mission of that program is as well.
So the organization you're talking about is the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, known as ARC. They're based in Los Angeles, and they work with state prison parolees here in California who are coming back into the community. So they're a re-entry organization. They're also an advocacy organization. They're trying to shift the laws and practices here on a political level to reduce sentences and create a more just prison system. California is one of those places in America, and there are many where the prison system has grown exponentially over the last 25, 30 years, initially in response to a lot of tough on crime posturing in the political world, and also fear of young people. Really, when I first started in this work at Street Poets in the early '90s, young people were being, or mid '90s, I should say, young people were being demonized by the media, and gang members were being, were there was not a lot of clear thinking around what's actually going on in the hearts and minds of the young people that were getting in trouble. And now I think there's this deeper awareness of some of the roots of these systems, and the ones that are rotten are sourcing from rotten places or from fear-based places. And so there's some pretty radical restructuring and even just reimagining of public safety and community wellness beginning to go on right now in our culture, and it's really exciting. And the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, or ARC, is one of the organizations that has been actively engaged in that here in Los Angeles and in the state of California as a whole, and really nationally as well. So why I got inspired to connect them to Wolf Connection, once I got a sense of what Wolf Connection was all about, and this incredible, the fact that it's such an incredible kind of oasis and retreat and sort of home in the natural world, it occurred to me that a lot of these adults, some of them are former lifers coming back into the system, who've been locked up, for as long as like 35, 40 years. And then some are younger and have done, 10 and 15 year sentences, but got locked up when they were 16, 17, 15 years old. And they're coming back out into the world and have been really in a not to get too mythopoetic about it, but they've been in this underworld journey, and it's really almost like an underworld initiation that people have to go through to just survive in those kinds of prison environments. And then they're coming back into this community and expected to speed up and kind of grab their cell phone and plug right back into a system that is not designed to receive them. And so ARC is one of the places that works to help create a welcoming, and I propose to them that there might be some value in homecoming retreats hosted at the ranch, at the Wolf Connection Ranch, to help welcome people back in a kind of more soulful way, perhaps. So in addition to helping people find housing and jobs and job training and all of those things, also create opportunity for them to feel like, okay, I'm home here on this earth in the natural world, and I'm welcome. And in my experience working with formerly incarcerated people, you cannot welcome them home enough. And Wolf Connection is a really special place, and as I've been blessed to be able to help facilitate, I think maybe 15 of those homecoming retreats. They're overnight retreats for ARC members. Usually it's about 15, 20 folks who get to spend 2 days with the wolves, 2 days in circle. We tell stories. We do some sort of light ceremony ritual, sort of bringing in all of the elements: water, fire, earth. And just help. Really, those retreats are designed to help people remember who they are, remember what it feels like to be home in the natural world. And in some cases, we've had, depending on the time of year, everyone has slept out on cots under the stars with the wolves howling at night, and it's freaking awesome, man. It's surreal, and it's been just an incredible blessing for me over the last 3 years to be able to help facilitate that stuff with you guys, with the wolves. And I know it's been really good for ARC in terms of helping to build their community and the connection between different ARC members and there's a core group there that have really stayed connected to what they experienced at Wolf Connection, and we're repeat customers. So actually helped to facilitate some of those retreats for more recently released people. So I don't know. I hope that gives some sense of that relationship. But I think one of the beautiful things about Wolf Connection is how collaborative a space it is. And certainly that's true. Street Poets is a very collaborative organization, and ARC was great to be able to add them to our kind of larger family of nonprofit organizations doing really great work, and help them grow some roots, and ground their really important advocacy and reentry work in nature, with wolves as allies. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think what you said is, I think you explained it beautifully. And getting back to what we were really, you tied it into what we were just discussing before, right? About that almost the acceleration to de-acceleration to sort of matching everything, right? You're coming out of a system that it's very, as you say, there's a lot of unjust things that have happened to many of these individuals.
Yeah.
And they've been...
It's traumatic.
Yeah, it's a traumatic experience. And to come out to a place where they're able to sort of settle. And again, I believe it's really the invitation. Much like with Street Poets, just like with ARC, you guys are inviting these individuals, like you say, you're welcoming them home to not only, job potential, a home to actually call their home with a front door, but also home that, like you say, this is your home as well. These are we're all the same. We're here on this earth together. We're sort of inviting you to have this experience so that you can really just sort of settle in again. Is that anything like? Is that sort of what's really the feedback you've been getting from the individuals that come here through ARC?
Oh man, I mean, it's great. I mean, you can imagine if someone has been living in a concrete cell for 30 years, what a radical thing it is to be sleeping on a cot under the stars with wolves howling in the distance. And I mean, there's just no, I can't think of a better antidote for the trauma of having been basically, buried under concrete, and behind bars. And in those groups, there are people that have done 35, 40 years. There are some that have just done a couple years. The lifers, I would say, in a weird kind of way, they're the ones who there's a quality that a lot of lifers have, in my experience with them, that's almost monk-like. Like there's a kind of discipline. If you survive that many years in prison, you have developed some incredible, I go beyond saying coping mechanisms, really like practices to stay present and focused and block things out and lock in, and they've learned to live in really horrific conditions. And so, there's a quality they have that's monk-like. And so when they come out in a weird kind of way, they're more ready for what the wolves have to offer than anybody. Like there's a kind of, I should say, when they go into an enclosure, the wolves tend to be pretty relaxed around the lifers because they know how to quiet themselves. They know how they find that stillness and that groundedness within themselves. And so it's interesting to witness that. And then, you have younger folks as well who have been struggling with addiction and other things, and their energy is a little bit more scattered, but something about getting out into the natural world with those wolves just quiets things down and brings people together. And let me just say, there have been so many magical moments on these homecoming retreats with ARC where, let's say we're gathered around a fire and everyone we traditionally do on the evening that we're there, or some kind of fire ceremony. and people make offerings to the fire of things they want to let go of, anything they want to release to the fire. And then we will often sing. We bring in, there's certain songs in our community that have indigenous roots that have been gifted to our community for this kind of purpose. And so we offer up these songs. And maybe it's a song to the ancestors, maybe it's a song to the earth, to the natural world in some way. And we've had moments like there's one in particular I can remember where we sang the song together after a very deep sharing around the circle, and the wolves just like it was like this chorus of howling wolves that just came in right as we were finishing the song and just kept going. And so we sang ourselves for like 5 minutes, and then the wolves sang for another 5-10 minutes on top of us. And it was like this incredible affirmation. And I would say like those wolves, they just know what's going on emotionally on the land. They're tuned into the people. They can feel when something significant is happening. And there's so many moments that I've experienced out there where the howls come in at the moment where the tears are shed, or when some offering is made, or when the community circles up and comes together, or when the song reaches a certain crescendo. And it's uncanny, and it sends chills down my spine when I think about it. And if it's also exactly what people coming out of the state prison system need, which is this sense that they are connected and they are part of the larger web of life and the natural world. It's what really we all need, but especially people coming out of prison need that feeling. And they get it at Wolf Connection, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's unreal. Kudos to you and the ARC program, because I remember I helped out on one of them, on one ARC program, and I remember thinking like within the first 20 minutes, I'm like, this is so obviously a genius and incredible approach to welcoming, our people back to society in this way. So genius approach, really inspired approach, it felt like.
And they have a lot to offer the society. I think now, especially probably more than ever, we're all starting to realize like, okay, there's some things that are really wrong on a foundational level with the society and the world that we've built. And those of us like you guys at Wolf Connection and Street Poets have been sort of aware of these deep wounds and structural, imbalances, and for some time. And certainly, but I would say, especially people coming out of the prison system have that kind of awareness. They've suffered in many cases as a result of those, and so they have something to offer our society, coming back into it, having less because they have less investment in the status quo. And if you're looking for agents of change in the world, you're going to look for people. The best agents of change are the ones that are less attached to the way things are or have been.
Yeah.
And so I that's one of the reasons I love working with ARC. Why I love working with Street Poets, and also there's a stillness and a kind of I think you talked about slowness that happens. Like you kind of shift into a slightly slower gear around these wolves and stuff on some level, or heightened awareness, but slow. And these lifers, these older folks that have been locked up for so many years, they have a kind of presence and a slowness to their being that we need. Like our culture is spinning way too fast. Our modern culture, everything is speed, accelerating. How can we get there faster? How can we download this faster? How can we, and we need to remember the importance of slowing down at times and getting back into rhythm with the earth and with nature. And these folks have a lot to teach us on that level. So
I agree with you. I think Steve and I are on the same page. I think there's such a synergy just to talking with you again. And it's been obviously a while since everything has happened with COVID and the situation that we're currently in. But it's such a reminder of how much synergy there is with really all three programs, between Street Poets and ARC and here at Wolf Connection. how all of these programs and all of these individuals and these groups come together really for really that common goal of, invitation, collaboration, and just hearing all the voices that need to be heard and the knowledge that can be spilled out from all the individuals that come through all these programs. Chris, before we end, I do want to ask you one final question before we get to, because we want to get the websites out there for Street Poets and ARC so that people can look up stuff. For you, you've said so many wonderful things, and thank you for being such a huge supporter for us and a huge collaborator. When you hear the word wolf, what's something that comes to your mind?
I mean, the first, the word howl. I mean, I don't know if you guys know Allen Ginsberg. He was a famous beat poet in our country, in New York City, and he has a famous poem called "Howl," and it's just him just spewing this incredible kind of. It's almost like he vomits like this incredible language out into the world. And at that time, especially in the mid-late 60s, when the beat poets were coming of age, it was really revolutionary and radical. But it was this sort of pure expression of like revolution and revolt against the status quo and society as a whole. And that's the word. That for me. The experience with wolves is all about the howl and the way the pack uses their howls to align with each other, to connect. And I think there's some seed in the practice of poetry and in the practice of being with these incredibly beautiful, soulful animals that has to do with voice as a tool for not only helping us remind us who we really are, and remember who we really are, but like how we align with each other, and how we all need each other. And that I feel like is desperately needed in the world today, that sense of community, that sense of connection, human connection. And it has to be grounded in the earth and in nature. And that's part of the reason why I think places like Wolf Connection Ranch are so essential for the healing of our culture, and need to be preserved as resources for that work. So,
we can't thank you enough for all the work that you're doing, that you're still doing with both these organizations. Please tell everybody out there where they can visit for Street Poets and ARC information, so they can look up ways they can help, if there's ways for them to look at these places and help you out. So Street Poets and ARC, go for it. Give them the information they need.
Yeah. So, well, if you're interested in learning more about Street Poets, you go to Street Poets Inc., like as in incorporated. So streetpoetsinc.com. That's our website. You can also follow us on Instagram at Street Poets Inc. And Anti-Recidivism Coalition. I believe if you Google Anti-Recidivism Coalition, you're going to get ARC in Los Angeles. They do have an office up in Sacramento as well that's oriented more around advocacy work. But they may even have a presence in the Bay Area now. But I think if you go, you might even be able to go antirecidivism.org, but it may be antirecidivismcoalition.org. But highly recommend looking them up as well. They do really important work, and especially in these times when, there's a lot of people being released from the state prisons right now into the community, partly around the COVID stuff, and for good reason. But the resources aren't always there to receive them, and especially now when there's been a lot of emptying of some of those facilities, and there aren't a lot of resources on the ground necessarily to receive folks. So Anti-Recidivism Coalition is a great place to go if you're interested in helping to plug some of those holes, support, and And obviously you guys, man, Wolf Connection is the place where we all come together. And it's a great resource for so many organizations here in Los Angeles and for schools and young people. And we got to get past this COVID stuff so we can really start to, get back on the ground running there. And I imagine the Wolves have enjoyed some of the peace and quiet, but there are a lot of people that are in need of healing, especially in these times. And man, we need you guys. So.
No, we appreciate all the good vibes. We appreciate all the, like I said, the advocacy is huge from individuals like yourself. And thank you for being part of our pack for so long. So again, that's streetpoetsinc.com. Go to Street Poets Inc. on Instagram, and then you can Google ARC, Anti-Recidivism Coalition, and find them on the web. Chris, thank you so much. I hope we can get out here sooner than later. Hopefully this will all pass, and we can really start, like you said, humming again and really coming together again. So thank you so much for spending time with us. You're welcome back anytime. So thank you so much, my friend. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Howls to all of you out there. And we will speak with you all next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.